All right, guys, we're going to go over page G from the AP Prep Geometry Summer Homework about writing the equation of a line. We're going to start with some different information for each problem, but something important here to remember is kind of the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. So y equals mx plus b. M is your slope, and b is the y-intercept. There's a few different ways to do this with this first set of problems, 1 through 3 here, where you're given m, which is the slope, and a point. You can use what's called point-slope form. Which looks like this, where you take the slope m and your point will go in for x1 and y1, and you can kind of simplify that and get the equation. But I am going to use the slope and the xy coordinate that I'm given to solve for the y-intercept, and then just write the equation that way. That's probably the way that you were taught first. We will go over this point-slope form later on in the year. So this is called point-slope because you can use any point and the slope to write the equation, and this is called slope-intercept, because you need the slope and specifically the y-intercept to write the equation. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do number 2, just because. So I have an x and a y right here, and I have an m right there, so I can fill out everything here except for the y-intercept, and then I'll be able to solve it. So it's going to be 3 equals -4/3 x, which is, -3 plus b. So this is now in y equals mx plus b format. I've just substituted in the slope and the xy coordinate that I was given. So doing a little bit of multiplying here, these 3's kind of cancel each other out. A negative times a negative ends up being positive. Because this ends up being -1 when I simplify that, and this ends up being 1. So I end up with 4 plus b. Now I can solve for b right here real quick, subtracting 4 on both sides. I get that b is equal to -1. So that gives me now my slope and my intercept that I can use to write the equation of this line. So I'll use the slope that I was given and the y-intercept. And so the equation of my line will be y equals -4/3 x minus 1. And that's the equation of my line. So that's using the slope and the point to solve for the y-intercept and then writing the equation. I'm going to go ahead and look down at some of these other ones. So all of these problems, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 can be done that way. Oh, and 9. Down here, number 9 can also be done that way because we're given a slope and a point. But a couple of these other ones, 4, 7, 8, those are all starting with 2 points. We got to do that a little bit different. So let's look at number 4. Why not? So when you're given 2 points, you can use that to find the slope, right? So there's a slope formula where slope's equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you take the y coordinates, subtract them, it's going to go on top. The x coordinates, subtract them, goes on the bottom. It's important that you keep a consistent order here. So I'm going to label my points so that I do that. I'll call this one x1 and y1. I'll call this one x2 and y2. That's just so that I don't sort of mix things up, because that'll cause my slope to be off. The sign of my slope will be wrong. It'll be positive when it should have been negative if I have to mix these up. All right, so slope in this case is going to be y2, which is 3, minus y1, which is -2. And then x2, -2, minus x1 minus 3. All right, so doing that, that's really the same thing as 3 plus 2, which is 5, and then negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. You always want to have slope in reduced form, so 5 over 5, that's going to simplify to be 1 over 1. So in this case, since this can be expressed as a whole number, we'll go ahead and write it that way, which is negative 1. So that'll be our slope. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did on that previous problem here, where I take my slope and then one of these xy pair points and plug it into the regular slope-intercept equation. So hopefully to make this a little more clear, I'll write out slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take the slope that I just found, it's going to be m, and I'm going to go ahead and use this point right here for my x and y. I could use either one, I should end up the same thing. That will let me solve for b, because I'll have m filled in, I'll have x and y filled in, the only thing missing will be b, so I can solve for that. All right, so a little bit of simplifying here. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3 plus b. Go ahead and add 3 to both sides. It's going to give us 1 is equal to b. Now we have our slope, our y-intercept, and we can write the equation line. Y equals negative 1x plus 1. There you go. Now, there is one more here that kind of caught my eye as we were looking at it. Number 8. Let's see what happens when we find the slope here. Just to kind of point this out. So this will be my x1, this will be my y1, x2, and y2. So let me go ahead and calculate that slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be negative 5 on top, and negative 4 plus 4, that's actually going to be 0. This slope can't divide by 0. We call this undefined. So this, because it has an undefined slope, this is actually going to be a vertical line. And if we look at these 2 points on a little graph here, they're both have an x-coordinate of negative 4, and one of them is up at 3. One of them's down at negative 2. So we kind of graph both of these points. You can see the line that goes through those is right here. It's a vertical line right there. The way we write the equation of a vertical line is every single point on this line has a constant x-coordinate. Every single point on this line is going to have the same x-coordinate, which is negative 4. So we write the equation of this line, x equals negative 4.